Hello there, Misketeers. Welcome back to Missing Out Mondays, where we tell you what we're into. Start your week off right. I'm Tauri Jay.
I'm Lex Michael.
Lex Michael, what are you into this week?
You're doing like weird, it's like sinister jazz hands.
Yeah. Sass hands.
All right, just gonna barrel right past that. So cool. This week I checked out the documentary. It's on Netflix from last year, 2019. It's called The Great Hack. And The Great Hack, you haven't seen this, right? No, you should check it out. In fact, I encourage everybody pretty highly to check it out. It's a documentary about the analytics firm Cambridge Analytica, which was the company that basically data mined from all of our social media profiles leading up to the 2016 election and a number of other elections around the world. Data mined extensively and used all of our personal online data to essentially regurgitate that information as micro-targeted propaganda. The idea being that you could essentially persuade people who didn't know that they were being sold propaganda. You could persuade people to vote one way or the other. If they were, they fell into a group that in the documentary they refer to as persuadables. You just micro-target propaganda based on what their sort of their data painted as like a personality profile for them. Mm-hmm. And so you send them, like the examples they use, like leading up to the 2016 election, a lot of the crooked Hillary stuff was actually manufactured by like Russian troll farms. And using the data that was harvested by Cambridge Analytica, they were able to say, okay, well, who do we think putting this in front of might sway towards Trump? Or at the very least, who could we maybe get to stay home? Like, who could we get to feel so disillusioned that they won't go and vote at all?
Right.
But on top of that, a lot of the sort of culture war stuff that you're seeing online. I mean, if you remember, and more recently, this is less the flashpoint for the culture wars than certain other things, but a handful of years ago, the big sort of heated fight online was about sort of Black Lives Matter versus a lot of people want to say like Blue Lives Matter, that all lives matter bullshit. People that are, it's very clear, were intentionally taking positive social messages in bad faith and twisting them around, and it became this really big fight. Well, you come to find out a few years later that a great amount of that, and obviously it's based on real world incidents, but a great amount of the online conversation was driven by people who were exaggerating or outright lying to get people angry at each other. This has been going on pretty aggressively for a number of years, and it's not just here that it's happened. Brexit, same tactics were used as were used in the 2016 election. It's happening, again, in a number of elections all over the world. It, not so coincidentally, seems to favor the right every time that it happens. Mm-hmm. But we are now seeing more and more social media companies comfortably complicit, Facebook especially comfortably complicit in their data being harvested and turned against its users this way. It's a big part of why so many people are so now like aggressive about how people should delete their Facebooks and stuff. Now, Cambridge Analytica doesn't exist anymore as in the form that it once did, but a lot of these same people are doing the exact same things, and we don't really have laws in place at this point to sort of prohibit that sort of thing. It's
right.
Highly unethical, but the law structures, this technology, like we weren't ready for the internet. This technology is moving so much faster than we can legislate it effectively. So we've got these very bad actors, a lot of them are based in Russia, that are taking all of our personal information and using it to feed us information that they know will appeal to our sensibilities, and they've essentially hacked our brains.
Right.
And The Great Hack is a documentary about how they did it and how they are still continuing to do it. And this is serious stuff, folks. Like, this is actually very, very serious stuff. This is literally the foundational security of our democracy, of our republic, of the concept of democracy, not just in the United States, but around the world. And you don't have to actually hack our elections. You just have to hack the electorate. And that's what they've effectively done. They've effectively used social media and the data that they harvest from social media and the way that they're able to regurgitate it to manipulate people. They've essentially warped people's understanding of what reality is. And you see it in politics, and you see it, funnily enough, you see it, if you go to Star Wars Twitter, it looks a hell of a lot like politics Twitter. And the reason for that is it's the same groups using the same tactics to stir up shit and get people mad at each other. It's why you look at the individual talking points, and the individual talking points, if you really think about them for even a second, fall apart, boom, immediately. And I mean both in terms of politics and in terms of Star Wars. But you just need enough trolls, enough sock puppet accounts, enough bots to repeat it over and over and over in a way that seems indistinguishable from a real person or a person acting with pure intention. You just need enough of it so that people internalize it a certain way, and suddenly you sort of own their mind.
Right.
You know, like it's to call it brainwashing sounds, very sensationalistic and comic booky, but it is not dissimilar from that. So I encourage everybody to go watch this documentary, because if this is all new information to you, I probably sound a little kooky bananas right now. So go check this documentary out. It's not super long. It's about a good, 2 hours, not super long.
Okay.
So I highly encourage everybody to inform yourselves as much as you can. Arm yourself with as much information as possible, because these are going to be tactics that are going to be employed again in the elections to come, and they're going to be employed more efficiently and more aggressively. So we need to arm ourselves with information so we can parse out the bullshit. Otherwise, what do you do when you can't trust your own perception of the world around you?
Right.
Scary stuff. And it's only going to get scarier. It's going to get a lot scarier before it gets less scary. So the best thing that we can do is arm ourselves with knowledge. So a great place to start, a really digestible, accessible place to start, is The Great Hack. Again, it's about Cambridge Analytica and the tactics that they used to help sway the 2016 election. But this is it's highly relevant, and it's spooky. We're fucked, y'all. We're fucked. So go check out that documentary.
Yeah, and we'll be including a link in the description, just so you could just click it and it goes on your phone, because we know that's what you're listening to this on, or on your computer, which also goes to Netflix. Go to Netflix. Anyway, I have just been catching up on a lot of animated content that I hadn't had the chance to watch, that people have recommended to me. So last week it was Dragon Prince. This week it's Steven Universe.
Okay, so the Steven Universe is a show that I've heard about for years, and I know that the people that love Steven Universe love Steven Universe. Like, for some people, it seems like that is their Marvel or their Star Wars, stuff like that.
Okay.
So I know nothing about this show other than it's an animated show that people are really, really, really into. Okay. What is this show?
Well, let me tell you. The show conceit is it's created by Rebecca Sugar, and it was made for the demographic of children, usually male, between the ages of 4 and 8.
Okay.
But the way that the storytelling works is it has a lot of metaphorical storytelling, and there's also a lot of dark cosmic stuff as well.
Okay.
And so I think that is the big appeal of it, is it really reaches people who are old enough to understand the metaphor, but it is also whimsical and wholesome enough that if your child was watching it, you'd be like, oh yeah, there's some really good messaging in this.
Okay.
It explores the concepts of relationships, whether it be friend relationships, or whether it be interpersonal, or romantic relationship, things of that sort. And it has this idea of fusion, which represents relationships, and it can be that two people are fused permanently because they are basically married, they're in a romantic relationship, whereas two friends can, if they are gyms, can fuse together, and that's their bond of friendship, things of that sort. So there is metaphor in that regard, but then also there are all these other story aspects in that the main character Steven, he came to existence because his mother was this part of this alien group called the Gyms, and they are basically space colonizers.
Okay.
And so they mine all of the resources of a planet, and it becomes destroyed, and it just makes more Gyms. And so his mom was the leader of the resistance to try to free them from the tyranny of the Four Diamonds, who are the main dictators of the different sectors. And so there's a big giant space war going on that will sometimes come to Earth because that's where the resistance was. But his mother doesn't exist anymore because she essentially turned into him, and that's how he came to be, because she fell in love with a human, and their pieces together made Steven. But like, you could equate it as she died in childbirth.
Okay.
Is like the metaphor.
Got it.
And so there's a lot of aspects of people's relationship with her that they will either project onto Steven, or there's a lot of stuff that Steven has to learn about her as he grows up, and he learns how much of a a complicated figure she was. And so like, as he learns more, and as he has to like try to lose the idea of being in her shadow, you have to grow with him and figure out and watch him like make his way through these complicated aspects.
Okay.
So it's a really good show that like, it's short. The episodes are about like 10 to 15 minutes. With the exception of like some big events will be like a whole 30 minutes. So you can really blast through it. Each season is about like 20 episodes or so.
Okay.
And I think that like, I personally prefer the cosmic storytelling stuff, because that's where it gets really like dark and complicated. But like, there is also just some like regular wholesome stuff where he's like interacting with people in his local town, and it's like a small beach town, and you basically get small stories of people resolving relationships and like working out their interpersonal problems, and like there's in like really healthy ways. And I think that's a really good aspect for kids to kind of start coming to terms with. Like, there's this one, this is more on the cosmic storytelling, where you have a character who is dealing with having been in a very toxic relationship, which is like not a relationship in that she was forced to be fused with this other person and it like wore on her, but she's like, I know that it was terrible, but I miss it a little bit.
Yeah. And
you start to like you have to come with her to process this idea of like being in a toxic relationship, but part of you like wanting the comfort of it, and her having to overcome that.
Okay. See, like everything you're telling me about the show, it makes a lot of sense to me now. Why? So you say the show is designed for ostensibly for 4 to 8 year olds. I'm not talking to any 4 to 8 year olds. The people that I hear talking about this show, the people that are professing to be huge fans of this show, are like late 20s, early 30s. You know? So that makes a lot of sense. Like why they would be able to find just as much in the show, if not more, than the age group it's ostensibly aimed at.
Right. Well, because I think that like, if you are an adult consuming it now, it like it references things that you yourself could be going through. But I think that it also, if you are a kid watching it, it builds a foundation of what a healthy relationship should and could look like. And so like, you're growing into those ideas, whereas like someone who's already been there can just identify and relate with them. So it like hits on both aspects. So I highly recommend it. I've gone over some plot stuff, but like none of it really like makes sense until you have it in context.
I can tell you definitely said a lot of plot stuff that doesn't make sense to me.
Yep. So watch it. It's also very musically oriented. Like, there's some really fun songs, and there's a really sad song that like I watched twice because I was like, oh, this is such a bummer, and I love it.
All right.
I'll send it to you.
Cool. So it's a week for sad animated things.
Yeah, I love sad animated things. Sad anime. But yeah, so I highly recommend it. It's available on Hulu, so you can catch all seasons 1 through 4 on there. I think the movie is going to be widely released soon somewhere. And then we now have Steven Universe Future, which takes place after a time jump and he's grown up a little bit. So I haven't gotten to that yet, but I assume it's just as good.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, what are you people up to? And by you people, I mean the audience. What are you into? What are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you reading? Let us know at Missing Outcast. That's MissingOutcast. But if you want to talk to Lex about the hack, or you want to sell him on Steven Universe, you can do so where?
Yeah, I'll tell you where to go to mine my data. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram at the Lex Michael.
Nice. And if you just want to talk to me about Steven Universe, you can do so at Tauri Jay, TauriJay. You can also tell me what your favorite fusion is, because I love fusions and they're so cool. So tell me that. And tomorrow, speaking of sad animated things, I make Lex watch Grave of the Fireflies.
Yeah.
It's the 1988 Studio Ghibli animated Isao Takahata written and directed adaptation of the short story by Akiyuki Nosaka. It's a very harrowing tale that takes place in the latter half of World War II, and it follows a brother and a sister just trying to make their way in Japan after the loss of their parents.
Yeah.
So watch it, cry, and join us tomorrow. Because it's going to be great.
Yeah, don't blame me for any of this. This was all him.
Yeah, it's me. I want you to feel sad. I can't wait. Tell me how sad you are. But yeah, don't forget to join us tomorrow. We hope you have a wonderful Monday, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.